It's Friday night, just gone 7 o'clock, and as always, you're tuned to the Friday Night Football Pitch with myself, Cameron McDonald, and my co-host, Dennis Newell. And tonight, we're privileged to be joined by Morton assistant manager, friend of our old radio show, Mr. Andy Millen. Andy, how you doing?
Good evening, Cammy. Fine, thanks.
We get the not bad at all, mate. Not bad at all. Just before we're coming on air, we managed to get the technology sorted, so we're all good to go. Dennis is black too. You're ready to go. Good evening, Dennis. How's things?
Good evening, Cammy. I'm fine. And good, Andy. How are you? We spoke last night, but we haven't spoke for a while.
No, we haven't, Dennis. How are you doing?
Well, we had, I don't know how many years it might have been, 6, 7, 8 years doing a Friday night show on the radio. I know Cammy was there at the beginning, but we seem to be for ages. And then, of course, COVID came. And that kind of put the tin hat in it. But it's good to see you again, Andy. And we had some good times when we were doing that radio programme.
Yeah, same to yourself and Cammy as well. It's great to see both of you.
Yeah. Good. Well, tonight we're going to have a wee look back, obviously, at the weekend's football. We'll take a look at the Scotland game. Obviously, Dennis and I went off on a rant last week in terms of yet another international break. Good thing is there's a full lower league card this week, Dennis. And I think we'll finish the show paying tribute to probably a guy Andy played with at Clyde, who sadly and surprisingly passed away on Sunday evening, Stevie Convery. So we'll speak about Stevie towards the end of the show. But as I say, Dennis, we'll start with obviously football news. We look back at weekend's fixtures, some of the weekend's results, as always. And then, as I say, we'll get into that Scotland game.
Yeah, certainly. No problem at all, Cammy. Obviously, you've got that thing of looking back last week and you say to yourself, how much depth did we get into it? I'll run through them. We can always have a comment on it.
Yeah.
Kilmarnock going down 2-0 to Celtic, and these were the Sunday fixtures. And Rangers beating Hearts 1-0 were probably the two key games on the Sunday. Dundee United beating Ross County 3-0, and Hibs getting beat 2-1 by St Mirren at home. Motherwell beating St Johnstone 2-1, and Aberdeen winning 4-1 against Dundee. That was the Saturday fixtures. Just starting at Aberdeen, I thought they were very good. I don't know how much you've been catching these games, Andy. Obviously, you've got your hands tied as it is with Morton anyway, but I'm sure you would catch the highlights in it. And I thought Dundee's defence was pretty poor, and Aberdeen were very good. They're looking strong again. They had the hiccup with Celtic in the Cup, but the bottom line is they are bouncing back to where they want to be, and that's at the top of that league.
I think if you look at Aberdeen from the start of the season, the new manager's come in. He's done a wonderful job up to November, and they're probably, if you take out Celtic, they're the form team in Scotland. And although they get well beaten in the League Cup semi-final, but in terms of his league progress, the players, mostly the same group of players is within the building, and he's added maybe 2 or 3 onto that. I think they've done brilliant. And again, what I saw in the highlights, they deserve to beat Dundee. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. Andy, I'll mention something because you're closer to this than me as well as Cammy. When Aberdeen were playing Celtic, I thought the gap was too close. They played on a Saturday and they just played in midweek against Rangers. And you know yourself the tempo of that game, because it was massive for Aberdeen as well as Rangers, of course. But you know the sort of a rivalry it is between the two clubs. Now, for Aberdeen to win that game on a Wednesday night and the high they would have been on, I went through this last week, but I'm raising it with yourself because obviously you're involved with the game firsthand. And just to get your feelings and whether you agree or not, now, I don't think anybody put an emphasis on the fact of the gap and the way it was trying to get filled. Celtic rested 4 players, I think, against Dundee that Wednesday night. Aberdeen were at full strength. We obviously know the same depth and squad. And from my point of view, I think that looking at after that game, the Aberdeen players probably would have struggled to get to sleep to about 2 o'clock in the morning. There would have been that much a high.
Sorry, Dennis, go. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll complete it quickly because I did go on about it last week. And then they have the Thursday off. Friday, they would probably go back down to Glasgow, and then they've got a game on Saturday. And they also don't have the luxury of calling in 4 first-team players by having them rested. So their energy levels for me, I think, would have been an awful lot less. They would have been sapped a little bit, whereas Celtic then brought the 4 fresh faces in and away they went. Am I right to think that there wasn't enough emphasis put on the fact that, yeah, they get turned over big time, but was that no through the fact that it was just asking too much too soon?
I think what happens, Dennis, I think if you look at Celtic and Aberdeen squads, Celtic basically maybe got 2 players for every position.
Yeah.
And maybe the 2 players at every position would maybe get 16 internationals. So they can afford, Brendan Rodgers can afford to maybe chop and change in certain games. Aberdeen, when they played Rangers, were at maximum, and they played at maximum, and they gave everything to beat a Rangers team on that night. Now, as you rightly said, the recovery then is the most difficult thing in terms of recovering your body 2 days later, then travelling to Glasgow. But the thing about Celtic are used to playing basically 3 games a week, Dennis. These guys are used to playing 3 games a week. It's like the same with the boys down in England. It doesn't become an issue to them. Whereas the Scottish players, the Scottish teams, are not used to that, Dennis. You only have to see what happened to the teams that were in Europe at the start of the season. They all struggled because they hadn't got the size of squad to rotate, maybe take 4 or 5 players out and put another 4 or 5 players in. They hadn't got that. So they're asking the same boys to go to the Whale all the time. And then if you take Saturday, they've got a League Cup semi-final, full house at Hampden, and everything that comes with that. And it was one step too much for them. Because if you look back at when Celtic played Aberdeen at Parkhead, they were 2-0 up and really should have had the game sewn. But fair play to Aberdeen. They came out in the second half, get back to 2 each, and everybody thought Aberdeen are really close to Celtic. But if we're all honest enough in football, Celtic's squad at the moment is the strongest squad in Scottish football. And he's got a lot of luxuries that he can bring in and bring out, Brendan Rodgers has. Whereas Aberdeen-wise, haven't got that luxury. Yeah. But to be fair to Aberdeen group, at the moment in the league, I think they've done fantastically well so far. But everybody's keep writing off, i.e. Rangers. The thing is Aberdeen going to be able to do that from January onwards? And that'll be the test for the Aberdeen players, the Aberdeen manager. But at the moment, they've done brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. But you take a point on board that I just think the gap was too short to get them recovered with the minimum of squad that we've got. And I think it was tilted more towards Celtic then. Not that I'm saying it was deliberate in any manner or means, but the points you've mentioned there, Andy, is exactly my thoughts. That when you've got a cup tie like that as close as after a game, you really need to be a Celtic or a Rangers with a squad that can bounce back from a midweek defeat or victory or whatever it may be to be able to handle going into that cup.
Yeah, what will happen is normally when you play midweek games, especially at that level, even at Aberdeen Rangers, the adrenaline goes. So
that's
most players will not be able to get to sleep maybe about 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's what I mentioned last week. I honestly believe that's the thing that you look at.
And the next day they would have been for a recovery, which would have been very little.
Yeah.
And then the next day, the Friday, recovery again, and then travel on the bus, and then racing. Yeah. But as I say, the most important thing is when you're playing like that, at that level, is just recovery. People think that you train, you don't train, you can't train, your body will not allow you to do that.
That's right. And that's what I was trying to emphasise last week, because there is very few people have picked up on the fact of the recovery part of it. But anyway, that's covered that. Maybe a wee bit too long in that one.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But I mean, the long and the short is Aberdeen are doing fantastic in the league. That's for sure. You know, I mean, they're still unbeaten as it is in the league. The only drop points has been that Celtic game. You know, and obviously Celtic are the same. So I mean, both clubs are certainly setting the heather on fire, and look forward to the next game at Pittodrie between both sides.
Yeah. Yep. Taking another result in, Motherwell again doing well, getting a good result against St Johnstone. I think we're going to have to cut the arms off people, because that was two arm incidents. It seems to be every week now we're getting arms hitting the ball, and to me they're no blatant penalties, and for whatever reason they just seem to be allowed or disallowed, and I can't get to the bottom of it. What's actually legal and illegal when it comes to a handball on the park? And that was a game where there was 2 handballs. One ended up in a penalty that was scored. Hibs again getting beat 2-1 to St Mirren. And I've said this and I keep repeating it. From the start of the season and even last season, it's never been addressed. The defence is horrendous. And two goals that St Mirren got were on the back of horrendous, what would you say, really, really poor defending at that level. You can't get away from it. And they're creating chances, Hibs. But if you're going to leak goals the way they're doing, you're not going to win matches.
No.
I think the biggest problem that at Hibs, they went through probably 3 or 4 managers, Dennis, over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And what you've got is every manager maybe bringing in different type of players, and they're on maybe 2-year contracts or 3-year contracts. So every manager is going to inherit another group. And what ended up happening is David Gray, for his first job, has been in the building, but he's still new the manager. He's still new inheriting a group of players that, although he was part of a management team, he didn't bring the players in. And that's going to be very, very difficult for him to, how would I say this, they maybe get 30 odd bodies in the building. So normally most clubs will maybe go with big clubs will maybe go with 22, 24 players. But out with your Celtic and Rangers, underneath that, they're normally running with maybe 18 players to 20 players.
Yeah.
But Hibs seem to have that many players floating about the building. And unfortunately for David Gray, he's no managed to get a formula in his team that are going to win games of football. And the unfortunate thing is, that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter how they play or if they're scoring goals. If you, just as you said, Dennis, if they can't keep a clean sheet or they can't, just say for talk's sake, win the game 2-1. I mean, they've been in front a few games where they've been winning and they've lost late goals because what happens is, as a player, as a staff, you get agitated a wee bit, you get nervous because you're not used to winning games of football. And it's just a habit. Winning is a habit, but so's losing, Dennis.
Well, that's it. And defensively, there's no confidence there at all. I mean, it's basic mistakes. And as much as St Mirren done very well, the result is you've got to look at it and say it's almost gifted to them. And other teams have been the same. And that's why they're still at rock bottom.
Well, you've heard David Gray speaking like last week. The first half was unacceptable.
Yeah.
But when you're at a club, if you go out with the old firm, I was fortunate enough to play at Hibs. If you go out with the old firm, players probably don't realise just how big a Hibs their hearts are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Out with the old firm, they're huge, and their expectations are just as much as the old firms are. Although Hibs hadn't been at the top end of the league. Hibs had they won the Scottish Cup all the years ago, but they hadn't won a lot of silverware. But the expectations and the demands of the fans at Easter Road, they're obviously not happy with what they're watching and what they're getting in return, with what they expect. And sometimes it's too much for the players. Players come to these clubs and they can't handle that.
Yeah, there is an expectation, which we all understand, for Hibs and Hearts not to be at the bottom of the Premier League. It doesn't make for good viewing. But having said that, though, we are finding that when you look at other games, other teams now that are doing well, Dundee United beating Ross County 3-0, they're looking like a good outfit now.
That doesn't surprise me, Dennis. I know Jim quite well. I know how his team's working and how he works as a manager. And the one thing that he'll be well organised, and there's no stone uncovered. He's very meticulous in how he does his job, and he's got good staff members around about him up there as well. And again, Dundee United are a club who are a Premier League club, if you want to say name and the size.
Yes.
But again, their supporters are maybe getting a wee bit ahead of themselves. If Dundee United go into the Premier League this season, which they have, and they finish 8th and a wee bit higher, that's an achievement. But unfortunately, maybe now their fans maybe expect more, and people don't understand that Jim Goodwin's working with a lot smaller budget, and what happened the last time in the Premier League, a lot smaller, and he's doing a really, really good job. A really good job.
Well, they're sitting in 4th spot now, and to be honest, if they finish there, it would be a miracle. A good miracle in relation to absolutely outstanding to finish there. So
100%.
They look at that and they've got to say, there's a couple of times they've maybe struggled slightly, but the bottom line is they are actually turning out good performances. And I did watch the good bit of the Ross County game. They were no bad, defended okay, but in that particular, they have been defending not too bad, Ross County. But against Dundee United, on the Saturday. They were pretty poor.
Nah, he's recruited well, Jim. Jim's recruited well. He went and done, and as I say, from last, he's still got a nucleus of last season's group that were championship players, and they've come up and obviously proven at the moment that they're holding their own in there.
Yeah. Well, the wee boy Sturton, who's only 17, come on, and I don't know if it was his first touch, but he scored a good header, and that goes through the whole club whenever you see a youngster doing that.
Does. I think obviously we go back to your 80s and your 90s where Dundee United were renowned for bringing young ones through, and understand that goes in cycles. But there's a young kid at 17. Jim Goodman stuck him on at 2-0 with a minute to go or 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And he scores with his first touch. So that gives everybody a lift, as you're saying. It also gives the academy players who are his age group and underneath him seeing that what can be achieved, albeit it's only one game. Now the boy's only at the bottom running on the ladder. Now he's set his standard. He's got to try and keep working hard to keep in round about the first team.
Well, you had first-hand experience at Kilmarnock for a good number of years when Steve Clark was there. So Andy, we talked about it numerous occasions in the Friday night shows, and that was basically how many of them can make a grade. Yeah. And there were so many delusioned by being at Kilmarnock that, we had that conversation. There's very few. The squad you had was going to make it the first team.
The only one, Dennis, that's really, if you want to say that, doesn't mean to say that the opinion of the manager to try and play boys in the Premier League at that time, he didn't feel that they were up to that. I didn't mean to say that through time they wouldn't be, but at that time they weren't. The only one at the moment that's still left in the building from when I was there is Innes Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Innes now, I think, is around about 24 now. So although he's been in and out of the team, he's maybe not played as regular as he would like, but he's still been in the building. He's still played Premier League football. So that it's such a cutthroat business. Dennis, even at the level I work at, it's so difficult. People talk about academies and youth players, but if you look at from Celtic right down to the bottom team in the Premier League, if we're taking the Premier League, there's not a lot of teams play with young players. As much as like Motherwell, I've got the boy Lennon Miller, but he's only one or two. There's maybe the boy Wilson, the left back, but the rest are the young boys. Yeah. Dennis, because the managers, unless you're in the job, people don't understand that. The managers isn't going to just play a young boy at 17, 18 just to keep everybody happy. He's got to be good enough to be able to hold his own in there and obviously get the help with the senior ones. Because if you play all young ones at the one time, one, they would get damaged, and two, you would get relegated. You would get relegated.
Well, the boy Cameron, I think, come on just after half-time, or around about half-time last week. So again, out of the amount that's actually been through your hands, Andy, it's not a great ratio. And I think at that time, Kilmarnock had a good crop of players.
They didn't crop, but at that time, Dennis, Steve Clark, the time I worked with Steve Clark took Kilmarnock to third place in the league.
Yeah,
and that was because he had a core of good senior players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was an excellent season.
But he also had younger ones. Just say for talking to somebody like a Jordan Jones, somebody like a Greg Taylor. They were in their early 20s. So they weren't young, but they weren't old. But whereas you had Gary Dicker, Alan Power, Broadfoot, Chris Boyd, and then in top of you had your Stuart Finleys and that there. So you had a wee mixture. But the senior players controlled the training, they controlled the dressing room, and they controlled the Saturdays, how the game was played.
Yeah. And I think that was what gave the manager success, was that freedom that basically he's all had a role to play. And, it bore some fruit when you were on the park.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Moving on to the Sunday games, Rangers winning the game 1-0 against Hearts. I have hammered Rangers this year because they're a team that should not be where they are, and performance-wise or just general results. They've got poor players that are not producing. They've got well-paid players that are not producing. And again, they have got by. Can't fault it. Can't fault their European games. But they're still in slow motion. That's my point. And Hearts are starting. They've made no bad start with a new manager, but it's not a great move forward, but he's got a hard job to do there. But certainly Rangers, I think, done enough to win that game on Sunday 1-0.
The likes of Rangers, Dennis, the managers signed players from abroad and that, and I don't know if they realise just when they go to, as I've always said, they're going to Glasgow Rangers, Glasgow Celtic, the enormity of the club, and I think sometimes the players will go and they go, "Oh, is this as difficult as this?" Because at Glasgow Rangers or Celtic, if you draw, you can get a rough time. If you lose a game, it's a catastrophe. Mm-hmm. And if you lose a second game, it's like death. You're done. And I don't know. I don't know if they understand the enormity. They probably do, but it's having that strong shoulders, because there's a lot of criticism at the big clubs. And Rangers even beating Hearts on Sunday. That's the most important thing for Clermont to know. It's another 3 points, and he can't allow the gap to get any bigger. 9 points, even at this, is a 3-game swing. And even at this time of the season, that's a lot for the old firm. That's a lot.
We've had this discussion about the old firm many a time, Andy, on Friday nights. And the one thing that always sticks in my mind is when Tommy Burns was at Kilmarnock with yourself, and you had long conversations with him. And one of the things was that the best players in the world make good players at the old firm. And that sticks in my mind for conversation we've had. And I think that is always the thing, that you could sign what you think is a good player, but are they a good fit for the old firm? And I think that is probably what you're highlighting there. There's a lot of these players have came in with good credentials. The agents, although I think they've stitched them up some places, because they know they will never make the Rangers or Celtic grade. But the bottom line is, before you go to Celtic or Rangers, you've got to realise it's a different animal you're going to.
Well, if you go to Celtic Park, there's 60,000, 65,000 every game. You go to Ibrox, you've got 55,000. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, they're only looking at one team, and that's a home team. So you've got that. Yeah. You've got that. Yeah. And as I say, just what you say is, I'll never forget it. Where the hotel is, they used to have a training ground at Kilmarnock, running round, and just get talking about football, Celtic and Rangers, and you'd heard the story before, but I used to tell them about playing at Celtic or Rangers. He went, "It's not the best players, Andy, that play for Celtic and Rangers, son." I went, "What?" He says, "I've seen players that have been signed for £1 million crumble. They can't handle it, because you can go to Asda, you can go to Tesco. Half the supporters love you, half of them hate you." He says, "Sometimes they all hate you, even your own team, or even your own supporters hate you." So, as I say, in Glasgow's such a fishbowl. It's a goal fishbowl, and I don't know if players realise that. They maybe come from Germany, France, Belgium, where it's a lot more relaxed. You can go into the town centre, you can go about Glasgow, nobody bothering you, or go in their own country. You come into Glasgow, that's never going to happen. Yeah. Never going to happen.
Yeah.
Do you go to Asda in Greenock?
I think my road's in and back out. It's not, I don't think about it. To be fair, any place I've been employed, I've always had that mentality. One road in and one road out.
Yep. Anyway, moving away from league football, Dennis, to say we're
finishing the one result.
Right, okay.
I'm going to say this because I've gave them a bit of stick. Kilmarnock finishing that result. I thought they gave Celtic a good run for their money, considering the first game of that Celtic beat them, first game of the season. I thought Kilmarnock were really, really good, and it just shows you when the manager has an attacking approach to a game, the difference. Derek McInnes tried to defend against Celtic the first game of the season and get found out with it. He had a go at them again at Kilmarnock, and I thought they were excellent and could maybe have got something more out of the game. Celtic done well enough, but I thought Kilmarnock were really good, and it needs to come because you need everybody in Scotland strong.
Thoughts on Derek McInnes' press conference after the game?
I didn't listen to it. What did he say?
Very, very critical of Celtic and their support, and as much as obviously they wouldn't allow the minute's silence. So Derek McInnes was very, very critical. Of the Celtic support. How
many? You've got to look at the things as well, Cammy. How many many was there that were doing that?
There was certainly enough. Certainly enough. That's the problem,
It's
and
bad.
yeah, and I think, as Derek McInnes was saying, obviously they couldn't even control their own minute silence, unfortunately, due to the Neanderthals who were there, obviously supporting Celtic, or some of the Neanderthals who were there supporting Celtic. So I think he's got a valid point, but I just wonder if he'd have mentioned that had Kilmarnock won the game.
Well, I've stayed away from it because I'm not taking the gloss away from the fact that Kilmarnock performed well and Celtic got a victory that they probably thoroughly deserved. But the bottom line is it was a good match, and that's what we're looking for. Good games of football.
Good football.
It was more entertaining than trying to defend against Celtic that run over the top of you.
Yeah.
Have you seen a big change, Andy, since your Kilmarnock days of the club itself, the way it is just now?
I think you've got to give Derek McInnes a lot of credit for what he's done. He came in and he's took the club out the Championship into the Premier League. His first year in the Premier League, he found it tough. His second year, he got them into Europe. So he's certainly taken the club in the right direction. Last week, probably the game changes on the boy Watkins going through and he hits the post in the first half. Watkins scores and makes it 1-0. It makes it really, really difficult for Celtic on a poor plastic pitch. Because it is poor now. It's poor. And again, if they get their loads in the front, but as the game wore on, what I would say is, Dennis, when you play the Old Firm, you've got to have a really good day and you've got to have an off day. Kilmarnock played at their maximum on Sunday. Celtic dug in, scored just on half time, and that really gives you a dunt if you're the Kilmarnock team, thinking how much and how well we played in the first half, and we win 1-0, and then Celtic the second half turn up, get the second goal, and the game's finished. But Kilmarnock, as you rightly say, Dennis, I think the problem with Derek McInnes is we did that in the European exertions in early doors. It took a lot out of them. So he'll be expecting, I would reckon, when they come back after this international break between then and January, to be in the mix in that middle area. That's what he would expect his team to be.
Yeah. Well, he said certainly the last 4 games.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dennis?
He said 3 defeats out of the last 4 games.
Yeah, no, but you'll be disappointed because he takes a lot of pride in clean sheets and 1-0 games and 2-0 games or 2-1 games, you know what I mean? But as I say, they've got a squad that they'll certainly know about the bottom end of the table by the end of the season, Dennis. I would expect him to be higher up.
Yeah.
A lot of folk thinking he's auditioning for the Rangers job. Should he become available?
Who knows? Cammy, and I don't mean this in a cheeky way with Rangers. Nobody knows who's running the club, what they're thinking. And that's whatever happens to Rangers between now and the end of the season, somebody has to be guiding the boat along the way. At the moment, it's nobody's guiding it. It's like a rudderless ship. There's nobody at the top going, right, this is what's happening, this is what isn't happening. They've got John Gilligan, who I know, really nice guy, but he's not really got control of the club. He's sitting there in a short-term job. Yeah. So until a club, a Rangers side, really, they should look across the water. What's happening at Celtic Park? That business model at the moment has worked really, really well. Yeah, and it's driven on. So, and hopefully, personally myself, you want a strong Rangers as well. We need a strong Rangers, Cammy. And, and hopefully sooner rather than later, Rangers.
We keep saying that.
Yeah.
We need that both on and off the park.
We've talked about the business model between both clubs and the differences between both clubs. Celtic obviously predominantly buying cheap, selling on at a lot of money. Rangers buying players or bringing in players towards the end of their contract with very, very little resale value, and I think it's something that Rangers need to look to adapt and change that style of off the field things, you know. In terms, obviously, they need to look younger. They need to try and bring in players who they can move on, because let's be honest, both big clubs in Scotland, whether we like it or not, are going to have to be selling clubs in terms, obviously, sustaining themselves. I think.
If you talk about Celtic, that's all Celtic is. Celtic bring in players, as you say, Cammy, on cheaper, for 1,000 or 1.5 million or $1 million. But Celtic have also had players that they brought in for that price that hadn't worked out. Because of the average players, if you want to say that they are selling, the average is higher than the losses. I know, and nobody talks about that. But Celtic have also had some failures. But what they've actually been able to sell remarkable. And now they're talking about the boy Kuhn, who's been in last season. And now if you watched Kuhn last season for 6 months, he's a totally different player now.
Yeah.
He's come in, settled down, now he's running, he's up and running, and he's shown his quality. And there's a possibility he's the next one that'll maybe move.
Yeah, he looks quality, certainly.
Anyway, that's cover the cracks when you never see how many players at Celtic have signed that have failed, because you see so much income coming in from the ones that they actually, so the ones that have not done it, they seem to be gone. You never hear from them, but they make big transfers, and that's what covers it. Rangers don't seem to have that in their locker, which is a really toughie, because that means the manager's got nothing to play with. Because he's having to do what he's got. He can't go and spend 10, 11 million pounds the way Celtic can do. Now, that would be the difference. Then you'd really see if the manager is up to the mark. And that's always a question mark. But anyway, just touching on, before we finish with that, Cammy, it appears that VAR and the referee made the mistake on last week's game with Celtic when Atate was given a yellow card for a tackle. You've probably seen it. He was up and he was open. When I looked at it first, I thought, that's a red card. That was last week. They have actually said that they made a mistake on this. The referee made the mistake and VAR made the mistake.
Right.
How many people's employed to get this right?
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%.
I looked at it once and I thought, that's a red card.
Yeah.
And I just look at these people and I think, how incompetent can you actually get?
And the fact that they've dealt with it, they can't do anything else. That's the problem as well, isn't it? So,
anyway. That's a wee bit of a rant, just getting out of the road. Andy, you've not heard a rant for a few years now.
It's been a while.
Anyway, moving back in last Saturday.
Right, okay, you go last Saturday again.
Last Saturday, we're getting to the Championship. Falkirk 2-0 against Airdrie. Hamilton getting beat 3-1 with Livingston. You touched on Livingston last night, Andy, we can expand on. Partick Thistle and Wraith Rovers drawing one each. Queen's Park beating Dunfermline 2-1. And on the Friday night, your own team, Andy, drawing one each with Ayr United. I'll start with that game, Andy, on the Friday night. Were you involved with it?
Yeah.
You were there.
I was back in the doghouse.
You're back, I know that. We'll not get into the ins and outs of why you've been in the doghouse.
No, you're probably better leaving that. That's for another day.
Anyway,
the game last week against Ayr United, I thought the group did really well.
Yeah,
scored a good goal, and then after half time, lost a poor goal. If they'd got maybe another 10-15 minutes into the second half, still in the lead, I think we would have been on to win the game. But I thought overall the game, a draw was a fair result. Without being, I wouldn't be biased that way and say I should have won that. I thought overall a draw was a fair result. And again, you're playing against a team that got a really good budget, got a good group of players, and a team that's looking to go and certainly be at the top end of the league. And we competed well against them. You know what I mean? As I say, a draw overall was a fair result. And then obviously you get George Oakley, who we lost to here last season. He came back.
I was going to ask that.
Which is Sod's Law.
When Oakley was there for a while, Andy, because I know I discussed him when we were doing before COVID. So he's been there a while. And honestly, I thought you'd have been better with Annie Oakley than him when he was playing at Morton at first. He obviously came on a good bit.
Oh, when he came at first, he hadn't played for a wee while. Not Dennis. When he came in, he got up and running. And last season, Morton had something like 34, 35 goals taken out of the team between George Oakley going to Ayr, Robbie Muirhead going to Livingston, and Robbie Crawford going to Partick Thistle. And for a club like Morton to try and replace that is practically impossible.
Yeah, very difficult.
And you'll also understand, because you are supporters of football clubs, it isn't until probably players leave your club that they're valued a lot more than what they were when they're at the club. And that's, I think, deep down, if supporters are honest at Morton, they would realise just what they had. Robbie Muirhead was Morton's top goal scorer for 4 seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm. Do the fans understand that, Andy?
I don't know if they understand that, Dennis. What I'm saying is, I think sometimes when supporters and all supporters are at any club, sometimes when the players are playing it, they get a hard time and this and that. They'll maybe know everybody's favourite. But when they leave the building, they might, if they're honest enough, they'll go, he wasn't a bad player for us, really.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, that's always the way.
And obviously, Ayr United, who were at the top for a wee while, Falkirk's back there, but they were up at the second top. Is Ayr United's bubble burst? I know they went out in that cup. And just talking about that cup, is that the old Challenge Cup that you won 3 times, Andy?
Yeah, that's it.
3 times.
The thing for Ayr United, Dennis, the big loss for Ayr United is the boy Anton Downs. They lost Anton Downs, who played up top with George Oakley, and he was a good foil, and they've missed him. They've missed that one. That'll be a blow, and he'll not come back into next season. He got a bad knee injury, so he's out for the rest of the season. So that's a big blow for Ayr United. But is a bubble burst? Look, they started off really, really well, and they're going through maybe a wee dip where you would say they have to get back on the bike again. But they've got enough points that keeps them in the pack. That's the most important thing. When you hit your slump, as long as you've got a few points, it keeps you in the pack, and they've done that. But they'll certainly be expecting to be top 4 this season, Ayr United.
Yeah. And just looking at the top of the league, Andy, because we need to watch your time as well. You've got Falkirk sitting at the top, then Livingston, and then Ayr United. Greenock Morton and yourself is sitting in 8th spot. Is there any way you can get into that top 4 where Queen's Park are in 4th spot?
Well, what I'll say is then is just quickly, going on too long. Falkirk is a right good side, middle to front, really good.
Yeah.
John McGlynn's had that group together for probably this is their 3rd season, and they play some really, really good stuff. And they've got a team that are just handbrake off, and they're playing with freedom. And it's no coincidence where they are. John McGlynn's a good manager, good coach, along with the boy Paul Smith. They're good. Yeah. The players are good football players. They're good attacking players, and they've got a threat. So at the moment, they're warming now. Livingston are a team that I'm surprised nobody talks about. For me, I say to you, Dennis, that they're the best side I played this season in the league. Yeah. In between the 2 18-yard boxes, they're strong, but final third, I don't know about finishing wise. That might come. But nobody talks about them. They're the team that's been in the Premier League for 7 years and come out of there. So they're probably right underneath the radar, but they'll be there. Who did you say in 3rd place, Dennis?
Ayr United.
Ayr United should be there for the budget they've got and the players they're trying to get. And who's in 4th place, Dennis?
Queen's Park.
They're another difference. Well backed with Wally Hockey.
Right.
The teams in the Championship, Dennis, this season who have, I would say, went for it, trying to get the one golden ticket, are Ayr United. Wraith Rovers, and even the Falkirk, they've all got really, really big budgets.
Yeah. See when you say that, and we look at the supporters again, what does Morton supporters think? Because they're all big hitters financially who are expecting to go for that one spot. But where do you look at Morton and Andy? If there's no the finances and you're losing players, what do they expect for this year then?
Well, Michael Harkins, who's a director, put something out last week where he gave the accounts and all that and the money they've lost and everything else. He said they budgeted for 8th place. Now, if Morton finished 8th and higher, it's like winning the lottery. And to explain that quickly, Doug Emery took over. If still on a job and I'm still on a job come December, 3 years. And then in that 3 year, his first season for first 5 months, he finished 7th. His next season, he finished joint. He lost out in a playoff place with Partick Thistle with 2 goals.
That's
when
right.
He went on to play Ross County. And last season, he finished 5th again. So what he's done is remarkable.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that as his pal, because I'm not his pal. He inherited me. So I think what Doug Emery has done in his young manager career is remarkable. Now, what Morton are fighting against and playing against, the gulf is massive in terms of the budget-wise. And what Morton are doing for a fan-owned club is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if fans believe that they should be challenging to win the league.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've got any realism that way, Dennis. I don't know. Again, that's me only speaking honestly. And I don't want that to sound negative because nobody would like to be winning the league the more than do you hear me?
Yeah.
But we're also, there's a realism of what can be achieved. You're going to play a team tomorrow who'll have a budget of over £1 million, over £1 million. Raith Rovers.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see tomorrow because 1 and 2 are playing Livingston at home to Falkirk. So that's a good one. You've got Raith Rovers yourself, and Ayr United, who are third, have got Queen's Park. So the top boys are playing.
Everybody's playing each other because even the way it's all falling yesterday, tomorrow, Dunfermline are playing Hamilton.
Yeah.
Who's 9th and 10th, or 10th and 9th. And we're the same.
Dunfermline have got Airdrie.
Sorry, but they two are at the bottom end.
That's right.
I'm saying that, right?
Yes, second bottom.
And then we're playing Raith Rovers. And
that's right.
8th and 7th, and then the next two teams are playing each other.
They're all next to each other.
They're actually all in order who's playing each other. It's unbelievable.
And
I would imagine tomorrow, because of no Premier League, that the crowd might be quite bigger in the Championship tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which will be good for that as well.
They're almost like 6 pointers then because it's next to each other. So,
well, as I always say, Dennis, Cammy, that the most important time now is coming up to nearly Christmas time, where you want to be in an area where that's normally, as I would call it, the horses start jockeying into position for where they're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Because now everybody's seen each other, and now the real stuff starts in the second quarter, getting into January, and normally what you find is the ones at the top are going there, and you'll always get one team out the bottom area that'll just come on a run, and that's what happens.
100%. Anyway, Dennis, will we move on to the international stuff? That's 7:45, and obviously the Scotland game's kicking off now. Scotland are home to Croatia in the Nations League. Obviously, we talked last week about the international break. That international break this week is only affecting your top league. All our lower leagues, if we've mentioned, are playing tomorrow anyway. So that's always a one good thing. And as you were saying, Andy, could well see that crowds are up tomorrow for some of these games, So I think that's vital in terms of our lower league clubs. Yeah. But Scotland desperately need to win tonight to have any hope at all of staying in this top league, if you like.
No, it's what would I say? You're in between the devil and the deep blue sea. You've done well to qualify into the top league. But you go into that top section, they're playing the top teams in European football. And sometimes, just what we're talking about, other teams in Scotland, that gap might be just too much to bridge.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, when they went and played the so-called top nations, they've not been hammered, but they're just still short. And sometimes you just put your hands up and go, that area at that level is just too much for us to. I'm not saying they are competing, but just that to take that next step is a big jump. And we look at a Croatia, and some people don't realise that Croatia is probably just as big as Scotland, but they keep producing players. That's for another topic, Cammy. But there's a reason why these countries can produce players and we don't. There's definitely a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's for another day.
I mean, that's the thing. We look at these nations that we're playing, and none of them, I don't think, in terms of population, are far ahead of Scotland. Obviously, I don't know the population of Portugal, but you can compare it to, obviously, they're a smaller nation between themselves and Spain, much as we are, obviously, with England. Yeah. So you look, and as you say, you look at Croatia. Well, that's been divided up from Yugoslavia. So it definitely is a case of there's something missing in Scotland. We've discussed it how many times, and there's been so many think tanks and whatever else to try and see where we are falling short. But we definitely, as a nation, fall short of some of these other countries, and there's no reason at all why we shouldn't be competing with the likes of the Croatias or the Polands or whatever of the world. And as you say, Andy, we're just falling just that wee bit short. I mean, I think so far in the Nations League, Dennis, although we've been critical at times of Scotland, performances haven't been so bad. It's just the results that haven't been what we'd have liked. Yeah,
I mean, I look at it and I say to myself, we're saying that we're really optimistic and it's good to hear. But what we've got to do now, I think, because there's been a bit of hype in relation to, we've just missed out and we're looking to go forward. Croatia is not a bad team. I mean, I seem to get the impression that we can beat them no problem. I don't think we can beat them no problem. I think the last time Croatia came, and I'm trying to remember this, was in 2021. They came to Hampden and we got beat 3-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing you've got, Dennis, they've got a world-class player, even though he's 37, 38, maybe even older than that. And Luka Modric.
Luka Modric is quality.
World class. No, even world class. He plays with one of the biggest teams in the world, Real Madrid.
Right. And you know something, Andy? He doesn't play every week, so his energy levels will be high coming into these internationals.
Right, but for him to still put himself forward, Dennis, shows you the hunger, the desire he's got to still play for his country. And that's not a criticism of Scotland. I mean, Scotland have got some really good players, but we haven't got any world-class players.
But you know something, see, when you look at somebody that we're trying to profile and make sure that he is at that level, Callum McGregor, he's bailed out of our international scene. Now, why, I don't know, but he's disappeared. And I think to myself, you should be really getting yourself into that level that you've got somebody as a role model that you could be saying, I'm going to play him maybe 38 or something like that, the way Modric has done. And I would have more respect for him as a Scotland player rather than sort of walking away from it. It seems a bit strange.
I don't know don't know nothing about Callum McGregor, possibly because last year he picked up a few injuries with his Achilles and it might be a wee bit more
through
serious.
health. Yeah,
I mean, and
could be health.
Said, look, for me, because to be fair to him, Dennis, he for the last 3 or 4 years he's been playing somewhere between 60 and 70 games a season.
Yeah,
constantly. So eventually, it doesn't matter how good a pro you are, your body will break because remember the level that he's playing at every week. No, so much, I don't mean that in a bad way. No, even so much in the Premier League, but the expectation demands European football. Then he's going to the country. He's not getting a break. So he's maybe thought selfishly for himself, thinking for my career and my Celtic career to keep where it is.
I see that side fully, and I appreciate that side fully. What I'm going to be is a Scotland supporter that thinks we could do well. That's what I meant by that.
Oh, definitely could. Definitely.
You definitely want your best players, and certainly he is a top player in Scotland national team when he played in the middle of the park. Top player.
Well, as we mentioned last week, Dennis, when I was
sorry.
So I'm saying, as we mentioned last week when I was having my kind of rant as regards the international breaks, there's just too many international fixtures now. For me, there's too many games in Scotland they're playing.
I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it all. I think it's a disgrace that, and I know players are well paid at the top level, but you're asking players now, and I understand people will say, but if it's the ordinary working guy, he only gets 28 days a year holiday. I understand that, but physically, what they're putting their body through, in terms of you're talking about earlier 3 games a week at top level travelling and all that. And I know these guys will get the best of the best travel, hotels, food, everything. They'll be well looked after, but they're maximising themselves for 90 minutes, for longer than that. They're not getting a rest. And you're asking at the top level these guys to go for 11 months out of the year, maybe something more than that. There's absolutely no way. But what's actually happening? The players now are getting flogged because it's all down to money. FIFA, UEFA, and that's what it's doing to.
But Andy, that touches on the statement right at the beginning when I brought up Aberdeen against Celtic in the Cup, because that's the experience. You're flogging these guys. They're not getting a rest and a break in between. And that's why I brought it up with you, because you know firsthand, and I've played a little bit as well. You know to that level you can't expose your body to that kind of performance.
But the likes of that, Dennis, what you're talking about and Cammie's talking about is there is too much football. No doubt.
There is.
100%.
But the people who are running our game aren't interested than the people who are making the money. They're not interested. They're only interested in getting them out. They're not interested. You only have to look at. There's some players which will always have serious injuries, but some big players have some serious injuries. There's a boy, the Rodri at Man City, knee gone, and there'll be other ones around the world.
Yeah.
To ask players to go to Timbuktu and play, I just think it's crazy. I think it's crazy. You go back. I don't want to sound an old fat, but the European Championship used to only have 8 teams.
Yeah.
Euro Championships, It was the best of the best, 2 groups of 4.
Yeah.
New, and even the World Cup.
32.
New, you've got what Scotland didn't know. If you win the Nations League, it gives you a better pot for here and there. They're just making things that go along.
Yeah.
They're actually rather than having quality, they've got so much quantity now. That's the biggest issue. I think anyway.
And we've spoke, Dennis, at length over the last number of weeks. In fact, since we started the podcast, about this new format for club European football, and says how great this new format is next and everything else. That's more games as well. So you're no longer just the 6 games in your group stage. You're looking at an 8-game group stage. So there's another 2 games. So there's going to be additional games in that as well. So it is definitely putting more stress on the players that are getting less time to recover. And for me, I think that's maybe where Callum McGregor's coming from, saying, listen, something's got to give. It can't be my club career. It's got to be the international one, So I definitely got nothing against McGregor.
That kind of logic is perfect if everybody else is looking at it in the same vein. But as Andy rightly says, there's outside influences that are creating the monster that we're seeing. And we're very fortunate because the way that you play physically now is nowhere near like when you played, Andy, at your heyday, where they come through you for the back and everything else, and you could actually tackle in a football match. If that was the case now, half of these games would be abandoned because you wouldn't have enough squad players to play.
Yeah, the football is now a non-contact sport. That's right. I mean, there's no criticism. Things move on. Same as the physicality of the game, the athleticism of the game, and all that has moved on, and they are well looked after. I just think that the people who run the top end, UEFA and FIFA, don't have any respect for the players. That's just personal. Again, I'm not at that level. I don't even work at that level. But I can only imagine what your top teams in the English Premiership, or even if you want to say Scottish, like your Celtics and your Rangers and all that, when they're playing in Europe and all that, and the players go away to play for their countries, just the expectations that is expected of the player to produce all the time, it's impossible. Absolutely impossible.
Yeah. So that's the demands of everyday football. I mean, we've raised, I certainly raised the point as well as Cammy, that the new format in the Champions League and Europa Leagues, etc., are really, really good and it's more exciting, but the demands are higher. Now, if you're looking at a Super League, get the leagues trimmed down a bit, and I think there's excellent football matches in display. But I think it's quite demanding on what they're expected to perform at.
The one thing that, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, but the one thing that comes with the Europe, just say Celtic, the new Champions League, they've actually, I think they made something like 15 million so far because of the results in it. Yeah. There's a good chance that they can get something like 40 million, 45 million out of it. So, in one sense, that I'm complaining, but the people who run the clubs, they're just only interested in the money that goes into the bank and keep 100%. Their shareholders happy. And that's, unfortunately, that's the vicious circle you're in. You take the big money, big wages. So what comes with the big wages is the expectation for you to deliver, and it's a catch-22, really catch-22.
The clubs are not run for the fans. The clubs are not necessarily run for the fans. They are run as a business. And it's financial, and 100%. That is where I've said all along that maybe more Celtic supporters and Rangers have been shortchanged. There's no the injection of cash that has come in should have went out to make them a stronger, challenging team in Europe. They've done okay there now, but you just seen Borussia Dortmund what they can do when they come up against a bigger outfit. And if you're actually got ambitions, that's where you should be spending that money, no giving it out to shareholders. But anyway, that's a rant for another
100%. Yeah.
But
so thoughts very quickly on these 2 games. Scotland, obviously, tonight, as I say, they're 8 minutes in. It's still nothing each against Croatia. On Monday night, they're away to Poland. So, thoughts on these 2 games? Can Scotland get a win from at least one of them, Andy?
I think tonight will be a 1-goal swing. It'll either be a 1-0 Croatia or a 2-1 Croatia or 2-1 Scotland. I think there's more chance of them getting something tonight than in Poland.
No bother, Dennis.
I'm in the frame of mind that the young boy Conway's starting tonight. Doak's starting. My only fear is I've ranted every week, is the central defence. I like Suter to a point, but Hanley's not even getting a game with Norwich, and he's thrown in, which is one of the most crucial positions against internationalists. When you've got a weak centre half, you get found out. And Ralston, who struggles a wee bit, as we know, an honest player, decent enough, but he doesn't get regular games with Celtic. So you've got Ralston and Hanley playing, and McLean doesn't fit in well for me either. So I think you need 10 players that are going to be fit for the job, and I just think struggling a bit. But good to see that he's giving Conway a shout, and the boy Doak he has put on the bench, which is giving him a chance as well. He's got McGinn. He's still got Dykes. I mean, Dykes is certainly capable of coming on. And you have the boy Devlin. And I'm still surprised that the boy Devlin for Aberdeen is not at least getting a shout in this. So, the result for me will be 2-1 to Croatia. And I hate to see it because I would really love Scotland to get the points and we can then have a wee bit more to shout about. But I'd love to be proved wrong in this one.
And the Poland game?
I like for like. I think similar result. But having said that, I think we've got a better chance against Poland than against Croatia. So,
I'm in the same frame of mind as that as well. I think we've got a better chance against Poland than tonight for some reason. I think we're better away from home than we are at home, as we've proved previously, and I think we've proved in the group so far. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. 2 points would be enough
with 2 draws, though, Cammy. That's the
problem. No. We need to, as I say, I think we need a win and a draw. So it's just a matter of where we get that. But Dennis, very, very quickly, as I say, time's catching up with us. Got a couple of things still to cover. Do you very quickly want to just gloss over the fixtures for tomorrow? We've been very critical of the fact that there's no league football, but this week that we do have league football with the international break.
Well, I think we touched on the championship for tomorrow.
Touched on the championship,
First division, if we call it that, League One. Annan have got Kelty, Arbroath Cove Rangers, Dumbarton Queen of the South, Inverness Cally Thistle got Alloa, and Stenhousemuir have Montrose. Moving into League Two, we have Clyde, which is your team, Cammy, against East Fife. Don't hold your breath in that one, even though it's at Hampton. Elgin have got Forfar, Peterhead, Edinburgh City, Spartans have got Stirling Albion, and Stranraer have Bonnyrigg Rose. Having said about Clyde, I'm just saying that half tongue in cheek because I've tried to get them lifted every week we've been on here and it's not working. But there's got to be a day that you will turn the corner. Your manager's new and there's no reason why you couldn't start with a victory tomorrow.
As I say, I thought that they'd move on because I saw them a couple of weeks ago. I didn't bother going to Edinburgh last week. I'm not going through there for a game of football. If I was wanting to watch athletics, I'd maybe go there, but I'm not going for a game of football, that's for sure, So I didn't go, thankfully. 1-0 defeat against a side who they beat 5-0 in the cup earlier on in the season before things sadly went wrong. And I think tomorrow, I saw the game up at New Bayview or whatever the hell the stadium's called now, with the sponsor names and everything else. And it was one of the most embarrassing games I've watched as a Clyde support. East Fife absolutely gave them a doing, so I definitely don't hold out much hope for tomorrow. But Darren Young's tinkering with the squad. He's making a few changes. I think he needs to sort out again still what's happening in front of goal, and who knows where they can move on, but it's got to start very, very soon or they're going to be watching over their back. The one thing is they got a defeat last week and still moved up a position on goal difference, so there's a strange one.
Well, you're second bottom. It's better than it was for the last month or so. So it's still an upward state, Forfar obviously struggling, and their manager got sacked by 5:20 according to the news.
Aye, it was very, very quick.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's the way it works nowadays.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that more or less takes us up to it. We've managed to keep it under an hour and 15 minutes. Absolutely brilliant to see you and have you on again, Andy. It seems like the old days. I have less to rant about then when you're there.
We just got one thing, obviously, Dennis, I mentioned at the start of the show, very sadly. Clyde, for me, one of the most naturally gifted players I've seen play for the club, certainly one of the most natural goal scorers I've seen, although unfortunately his Clyde career was blighted by injury. Stevie Convery, and Stevie sadly passed away very surprisingly last week, the age of 52. Obviously, Andy, you played with him. I certainly watched him play at Clyde's. I say one of the most natural finishers I think I've seen at the club. What was your thoughts? Obviously, I know you'd have been very surprised, saddened and shocked, but in terms of obviously Stevie as a player.
Well, first of all, I was actually shocked with Stevie passing away. I only heard that probably on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was a shock, total shock. But I went to Clyde around about 2000, nearly 2001, Dennis, and he was part of a group that Ronnie McDonald and Alan Maitland brought in. And there were a lot of maybe juniors. I don't know, junior boys.
Yeah, he brought them in for the juniors. Yep.
Andy McClay, Stevie Convery.
Matt McLaughlin, Jack Ross, quality players.
There were a lot of good players, and they've done brilliant in terms of going for League Two, League One, into the Championship. Done fantastic. And then what happened is, I went in there, and you see the drive that the group had. They were great work ethic. Every game they played, every training session, gave their lot. And if you go to Stevie, there was a spell where myself and Billy would take the part-time boys, because the club then changed to kind of full-time. And Stevie, one of the part-timers with Andy McClay, and there were other boys, about 4 or 5 we used to take. He was brilliant, and I would call him, he was like a foot soldier, Cammy. He was fit as a fiddle, strong as an ox. As you say, when you get that opportunity in front of goal, he had a calmness about himself, although you wouldn't think that how he played the game, but he did. But as a human being, really, really good human being. Really good human being. And just shocked that somebody so young, 52, because even when he left, I think he went back to Atherley or something like that.
He went for Clyde to Hamilton, and then unfortunately again blighted by injuries at Hamilton. He went to Atherley, and then did a bit of coaching as well. I hadn't seen it for years, but I was absolutely shocked. I mean, such a again, he was part of that era, which Clyde done fantastically well, where they reinvented themselves when Ronnie McDonald and Alan Maitland came into that club. And basically, whatever they done with it, they rejigged it, brought players in, they knew the juniors, they got a lot of stick for that. But again, that's just snobbery in football.
Yes.
They don't say, by the way, these boys can play at that level. And they proved that. They
came from Mary Hill.
That's what I'm saying.
Alan Maitland was at Mary Hill.
But Alan Maitland and Ronnie McDonald picked the better junior ones and brought them into senior football.
That's right.
And Ronnie McDonald and Alan Maitland being what they are, we'll show you, because that's what they are.
That was
you
it.
know that yourself. That was our if you want to see their motivation to show people, and they did that. And Stevie was part of that group, and you should always remember he was one of the group that got Clyde to end up being the Championship for where I was. And by the way, got them to basically part of that was basically 2 games for the Premier League.
Yeah. 100%, yeah. So our thoughts certainly go out to Stevie's family, and as I say, I think the club themselves are doing a bit of a tribute tomorrow, obviously prior to the game or at half time in the game tomorrow against East Fives. So as a Clyde fan, get yourself along, and obviously pay your tributes to for me, one of the greats of the clubs. The club of the late 1990s, early 2000s in the shape of Stevie Convery. So as I say, our thoughts go out to his family. But that'll do us for tonight, guys. Andy, thanks very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. I know we've got technology sorted. This won't be the last time I think we'll have you on. Love to get you on as a regular again. That'd be brilliant for I'm quite sure Dennis will echo that as well.
Yes,
but this has been the Friday Night Football Pitch. Don't forget, guys, like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, and remember, it's all happening on the pitch. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.